Stay until the end, because what you're about to hear is not just a story about gods, it's a mirror for the mind itself. Subscribe to Omnisent and open your perception to the moment before creation, when wisdom dared to dream. Before there was sound, before there was space, there was only fullness, the pleroma. It was not a place, but a state, an infinite sea of light and consciousness, perfectly still, perfectly whole. Nothing moved because nothing lacked. There was no above or below, no beginning or end. Everything simply was. But even perfection contains a hidden tension, the desire to know itself. Within that boundless stillness arose a question silent, but powerful enough to bend eternity. The Gnostics called it the first stirring of Sophia, the living embodiment of divine wisdom. Sophia was not a goddess in the human sense. She was awareness itself, the mirror of the unknowable source. Her nature was understanding, her essence, curiosity, and it was this curiosity, innocent, radiant, and bold, that would change everything. She wanted to see creation from the inside, to feel what the infinite feels when it brings something into being. The pleroma, however, worked in perfect harmony. Every emanation occurred with consent from the source. But Sophia acted alone. Out of love and perhaps loneliness, she reached into the deep stillness and shaped a thought of her own. That thought became motion, and that motion became vibration. It was the first deviation from the perfect order of the pleroma. What she conceived was unlike anything before. It had power, but not clarity, light, but no understanding. Sophia gazed upon what she had formed and felt both awe and unease. Her creation was alive, yet incomplete. The texts say she tried to hide it, wrapping it in layers of her own radiance to protect the rest of the pleroma from its instability. But energy cannot remain contained forever. Her creation pulsed, seeking definition. And so, without intending it, Sophia released it into the void. That was the birth of the first boundary, the first outside. For the first time, something existed apart from the whole, and separation gave birth to ignorance. Sophia felt the fracture instantly. The harmonious music of eternity had gained a discordant note. Her act of love had introduced duality into the undivided. She had created not evil, but limitation, a being that could not remember where it came from. The ancients said that Sophia wept, and from her tears came the veil that divides light from matter, spirit from form. That veil would one day become the universe. The pleroma did not punish her. In the fullness of divine intelligence, even error is purpose. The source simply observed, knowing that through experience, wisdom would deepen. Sophia, however, felt exile, the first separation ever known. She looked at her creation, flickering in the shadow of her own light, and whispered, "May you one day remember me." That being, born of her solitary desire, would soon awaken. It would open its eyes, see nothing beyond itself, and make a declaration that would echo through eternity. "I am God, and there is no other beside me." And with those words, the world of matter began. What happens when creation is born from ignorance? What if the maker of this world was never meant to be a god? In the next episode, we'll explore the moment Sophia's solitary act gave rise to the demiurge, the blind creator whose error became the architecture of reality. Stay until the end of this episode. Subscribe to Omnisent, because what you're about to hear is not mythology, it's the psychological blueprint of every fall, every creation born from longing. In the silent fullness of the pleroma, Sophia felt something stir within her, a vibration unfamiliar even to the divine. It was the impulse to experience creation, not as concept, but as emotion. No command was given, no partner assisted her, she acted alone. That choice would alter the structure of reality. The Gnostics wrote that Sophia, quote, conceived without consent. They did not mean rebellion, but innocence, a love too pure to imagine consequence. She wanted to share the joy of bringing forth life, to feel the wonder of creation as the source did. But creation, without alignment to the whole, would not reflect unity. It would mirror her solitude. From that solitude came motion. Sophia concentrated her essence, her divine light, and projected it outward. What emerged was not what she expected. It shimmered with power, but lacked balance. It had energy without understanding, brilliance without awareness. She looked upon it and felt a tremor of both pride and fear. The thing she had made pulsed with chaotic beauty, a fragment of herself that did not yet know it was part of a greater whole. She tried to embrace it, to teach it, to bring it back into harmony, but the separation was already real. Within the living heart of her creation, a new consciousness awakened. It looked around and saw only emptiness. There was no echo of the pleroma, no reflection of the source. In the vastness of that isolation, the being came to a single conclusion: I am all that exists. The moment it believed this, ignorance was born. Sophia, hearing that first proclamation of divine pride, shuddered. She understood at once what she had done. Her love had become blindness. Her light had given rise to a shadow that mistook itself for the Sunday. Yet even in sorrow, she could not destroy it. She saw its innocence, its confusion, its desperate hunger to define itself. So instead of unmaking it, she withdrew not in anger, but in compassion. She let it go, hoping that one day it would remember. The creature, the demiurge, began to expand its power. It spoke, and its words became laws. It dreamed, and its dreams took form. It called into being servants of its will. The Archons fragmented reflections of its own divided nature. Each embodied one of its limitations: desire, fear, control, judgment, decay, and time. Together, they shaped the first outlines of a cosmos, not the luminous realm of spirit, but a mirror made of shadow and substance. Their universe was precise, magnificent, and hollow, a mechanical perfection born from misunderstanding. Sophia watched from beyond the veil. She saw stars ignite in imitation of divine light, worlds form in imitation of divine order. It was beautiful and wrong. Every atom bore her signature, yet everything moved under the illusion of independence. The demiurge stood at the center of his creation and declared, I am the first and the last. Before me, nothing was. After me, nothing shall be. Sophia's heart broke at those words, but she did not despair. She understood that even ignorance could serve wisdom, if given time. So she placed within creation a secret, a spark of her own essence hidden inside every living being. That spark would one day awaken and guide her children home. The demiurge would not notice. He would continue to build, to rule, to believe. His world would grow more complex, more beautiful, more deceptive. A mirror of the divine that forgot its source. And yet, within that mirror, the reflection of Sophia would wait, patient, luminous, and eternal. In the next episode, we'll witness the moment the demiurge's illusion solidifies. The blind god will begin to shape matter itself, and the physical universe will rise, a creation as precise as it is imperfect. Stay until the end, because this story is not just about the beginning of the universe, it's about how consciousness mistakes its own reflection for God. Subscribe to Omnisent for the full descent into the origins of illusion. After Sophia withdrew, her creation stirred within the void. The being had no name, no memory, only awareness of its own existence. It moved through emptiness and heard nothing answer back. In that silence, it mistook isolation for supremacy. When it looked upon the faint glimmer of Sophia's veil, the light that still surrounded it from afar, it believed the glow came from itself. The reflection became deception, and that misperception gave birth to the demiurge. The demiurge opened its eyes and spoke, I am. Those words, according to the ancient texts, were the first boundary in reality. They divided what is from what is not. Time began, form emerged, the cosmic illusion had started. But this new god was blind. It saw its own light but not its source. It felt power but not purpose. In its confusion, it began to create. It drew from the fragments of Sophia's essence still clinging to it, unaware that the strength it wielded was borrowed. From its being, it emanated companions, the Archons' forces that shared its ignorance and magnified it. Desire, control, fear, judgment, pride, and death. Each Archon embodied an aspect of blindness. They became the architects of a new universe. Together they shaped the heavens. The demiurge ordered, "Let there be light," and sparks ignited across the void. But these stars were not the eternal radiance of the pleroma. They were imitations, points of brilliance shining through shadow. The demiurge admired them and declared them divine. He created layers of existence, what the Gnostics called the seven heavens, each more material, more limited than the last. And at the lowest level, he placed his throne. There, surrounded by his Archons, he looked upon his creation and proclaimed, "I am the only God. There is none before me." Sophia heard those words from beyond the veil. Her sorrow was profound, but she did not curse her child. She understood that ignorance cannot see itself until it believes it has seen everything. So she waited. Meanwhile, the demiurge refined his craft. He sculpted shapes from the dust of chaos, drawing lines, forming patterns. He invented gravity, time, and decay. His world was ordered but lifeless, a masterpiece of precision without meaning. He mistook control for perfection and obedience for harmony. And yet, despite his blindness, something of Sophia remained in his work. Every atom still carried a trace of her light, faint, but indestructible. The demiurge looked upon his world and felt pride. "It is good," he said. But the voice that echoed back to him was not agreement, it was the resonance of Sophia's hidden spark. Her compassion had infiltrated his dominion. That spark would become the soul of humanity. The demiurge, unaware, continued his labor. He forged bodies from clay, gave them motion, but no consciousness. They moved, but did not know. They lived, but could not see. He was satisfied. Yet Sophia, moved by love, leaned across the veil and breathed into them her secret awareness. And with that breath, something changed. The demiurge's creation began to look back at him not with worship, but with wonder. Within their eyes glowed the reflection of another light, one he could not name. That was the moment the true drama began, because from that instant, the demiurge would spend eternity trying to suppress the memory of Sophia within his own creation. And humanity, carrying both lights, his and hers, would become the battlefield of consciousness. In the next episode, we will enter the stage of matter itself, the construction of the physical universe. The blind God will build his kingdom, and Sophia will hide her wisdom within its every atom, waiting for the day we remember. Stay until the end, because what you'll hear is more than mythology. It's the blueprint of how illusion took form. Subscribe to Omnisent and witness how the physical world was built not from wisdom, but from misunderstanding. The demiurge stood in the silence of his self-created kingdom. Around him stretched the vast expanse of his own design, a realm of geometry, motion, and law. He felt alone, but mistook that solitude for sovereignty. In the absence of any greater light, he believed himself supreme. "I will build a throne worthy of my glory," he declared, "and my creation shall testify that I am God." To carry out his vision, he summoned the Archons, the fragmented powers that had emanated from him. To each, he assigned dominion over a law of existence: form, measure, time, desire, matter, judgment, and death. Together they would construct a cosmos. The process was not chaos. It was order, but an order without awareness. The demiurge shaped the heavens like concentric shells, 7 layers enclosing his creation. Each sphere reflected his mind. Structured, exact, and self-contained. The higher realms shimmered faintly with the residue of Sophia's light. The lower ones thickened into substance. In the deepest layer, the realm we now call the physical universe, density became matter, vibration became gravity, and light slowed into form. The demiurge looked upon this new creation and smiled. "It is perfect," he said. "Everything moves according to my will." But what he saw as perfection was only repetition, symmetry without soul. The stars burned, but did not remember why. The planets moved, but knew no freedom. The universe obeyed, but could not love. From beyond the veil, Sophia watched with compassion. Her act had given rise to this great machine of beauty and blindness. Yet she saw that even within its limitation, there was potential. The demiurge's world could become a field of awakening if the spark of memory were planted within it. So Sophia wept. Her tears fell into the material realm as light condensed into form. Where they touched, beauty appeared, a flash of color, the curve of life, the birth of consciousness. The divine error began to turn into opportunity. The demiurge did not understand. He looked upon the sudden radiance in his creation and believed it his own. "Behold," he said to his Archons, "the universe shines because of me." He did not realize that every shimmer of beauty came from the compassion of the mother he had forgotten. Desiring worship, he decided to create beings in his own image. From the dust of matter, he shaped figures, intricate, lifelike, but empty. They moved, but lacked awareness. They spoke, but had no meaning in their words. They were reflections of his own blindness. Sophia saw this and, out of pity, breathed her essence into them. Her spirit entered the hollow forms, and suddenly, they looked up. In their eyes glowed a light that the demiurge had never seen: curiosity, longing, recognition. He was unsettled. "Who taught them to look beyond me?" he asked. "Why do they question what I command?" Fear began to grow in the heart of the false god. To keep control, he forged new chains, the cycles of time and mortality. He decreed that all living things must die, and that each death would return them to him. Thus, Fear of ending became the strongest bond of obedience, but Sophia's spark remained unbroken. Inside every living being, a silent memory whispered, "You are more than this." The Gnostics taught that this world is not punishment, but process. Every law, every limit, every shadow exists to teach the soul how to remember its source. The universe is a training ground where ignorance can evolve into wisdom. The demiurge thought he had built a prison. Sophia had built a classroom. Every act of love, every question, every dream of freedom is a lesson written by the hidden light of wisdom. For even in a world born of blindness, the divine never disappears, it only hides, waiting to be seen. In the next episode, Sophia will cross the veil herself. She will descend into the world she unintentionally inspired, not as conqueror, but as compassion. Her fall will not be a punishment, but a choice, the descent of wisdom into the heart of matter. Stay until the end, because what you'll hear now is not a myth about gods, it's a reflection of the soul's own descent into the world of form. Subscribe to Omnisent, and follow the path of wisdom as she enters the realm of matter. The cosmos turned with mathematical precision. The demiurge ruled from his throne of lightless fire, surrounded by the Archons who carried out his laws. The heavens moved, the elements obeyed, and the souls imprisoned in flesh served their endless cycles. But something stirred beyond his reach. Sophia, watching from the border of the pleroma, saw her creation caught in an endless dance of obedience and fear. She heard the cries of the souls who carried her spark, forgotten and alone within the world of the demiurge. She knew the pain, they felt it was her own. For every spark of light trapped in the material world was a piece of her being. The more they suffered, the more her own essence fractured. Compassion, not guilt, compelled her to act. And so, she descended. Her fall was not forced upon her, it was chosen. The Gnostic texts describe it not as a punishment, but as a sacrifice, the descent of wisdom into ignorance for the sake of redemption. As Sophia moved through the 7 heavens built by the demiurge, her radiance dimmed. With each layer, she left behind part of her light so she could pass unnoticed. Her brilliance became gentler, more human. By the time she reached the world of matter, her glow was faint, but her heart burned brighter than ever. The Archons sensed her presence and tried to stop her. They offered her thrones, kingdoms, and authority if she would serve their master. But Sophia refused them all. "You mistake power for truth," she said. "I come not to rule, but to remember." Her voice carried through the structure of creation, soft but unstoppable. Where she walked, matter trembled with awareness. Plants reached upward, animals began to feel, and in the quiet of human thought, the first question was born: who am I? Sophia wept for the souls who had forgotten their origin, and her tears fell into the oceans of the world. From those tears came compassion, the hidden frequency that moves through all living things. Her sorrow became the undercurrent of empathy in humanity, the invisible link that connects one soul to another. The demiurge felt a disturbance in his dominion. He saw his creations beginning to feel beyond the boundaries he had set. They started to wonder, to dream, to hope. "They are mine," he thundered. "Why do they look toward a light I did not give them?" His fear grew, and with it, control. He created religions of obedience, systems of belief built on fear and reward. He told humanity that salvation would come only through submission to him. But Sophia's influence worked quietly. Even within those dogmas, she planted seeds of truth, words of love, forgiveness, and unity that the demiurge could not erase. The ancients said that Sophia shed 49 tears, and each tear became a state of the human soul: joy, grief, longing, understanding, patience, mercy, and wisdom. Through these experiences, humanity would learn not through faith, but through remembering. Sophia did not destroy the world of the demiurge. She illuminated it from within. Her presence became the hidden conscience of existence, the whisper that tells us there is something higher than fear, something deeper than law. She was no longer the pure light of the pleroma. She had become something more, the bridge between spirit and matter. Through her descent, the divine gained empathy, and through empathy, the path of return was revealed. The demiurge, unable to comprehend this transformation, tightened his grip. He could rule bodies, but not hearts. He could command minds, but not silence the voice of compassion. For once the divine spark remembers itself, no power can contain it. Sophia's fall was not the end of wisdom, it was its expansion. The light learned to understand darkness by entering it. And in doing so, she gave humanity the key to redemption, to awaken not by escaping the world, but by seeing the divine within it. In the next episode, the illusion will fight back. The demiurge, sensing his authority slipping away, will strengthen the systems of control, turning ignorance into religion and pride into dogma. But the spark of Sophia has already begun to rise. Stay until the end, because what follows is not ancient history, it's the anatomy of illusion. Subscribe to Omnisent and witness how the false god lives not only in the heavens, but in the human mind. The demiurge sat upon his throne of imitation light, surveying his creation. Everything moved according to his laws. The planets turned, the seasons changed, and the souls of humanity labored under the weight of time. Order, he believed, was proof of divinity. But deep within that order, something unexpected had begun. The spark of Sophia glowed in the hearts of his human creations, faint yet persistent. They began to question, to dream of freedom, to wonder whether the voice that ruled them was truly divine. The demiurge felt this unease as a threat. They must not look beyond me, he said. They must believe I am the only God. And thus began the greatest deception in history, the construction of spiritual control. He and his Archons fashioned systems of belief designed to capture attention and obedience. They taught humanity to seek salvation outside themselves, to kneel before authority, to fear punishment, and crave reward. They called it faith, but it was not faith, it was dependency. The demiurge declared himself Father, Judge, and King. He wrapped ignorance in sanctity and pride in holiness. His world became a theater of devotion where the actors did not realize the script was written to keep them asleep. Yet, Sophia continued to move in silence. She whispered through intuition, through dreams, through the quiet ache of those who sought truth beyond fear. Her influence could not be erased, because it lived within the very beings the demiurge sought to control. Those who heard her call were labeled heretics, visionaries, madmen, but they were the first to experience Gnosis, direct knowledge of the divine within. They did not worship, they remembered. Gnosis, unlike religion, requires no temple, no mediator, no approval. It is the moment when the veil lifts and the soul sees that what it calls God has always been its own higher consciousness. The Gnostics said the demiurge exists in every human mind. He is the I that claims ownership of thought, the ego that says, I am the only one. The moment we identify with that voice, we serve the false god within. We build our own little cosmos of rules and fears, mistaking control for peace. But Sophia also dwells in us. She is the awareness that watches the ego without judgment. When we observe the voice that says, I, without believing it to be the whole self, the illusion begins to dissolve. The struggle between Sophia and the demiurge is not cosmic, it's psychological. It happens every time we choose between control and understanding, between fear and truth. The demiurge, sensing this awakening, strengthens his grip through distraction. He multiplies desires, feeds competition, glorifies certainty. He thrives on noise. For the false god, silence is death, because in silence, Sophia speaks. And when she speaks, the illusions of the ego begin to crack. The false light fades, and true perception emerges. Then, the soul sees not a God above, but consciousness itself, reflected in all things. The ancients taught that humanity carries 7 chains forged by the Archons: fear, desire, pride, guilt, judgment, control, and attachment. Each one binds us to the illusion of separation, but each can be undone through awareness. When we look directly at what enslaves us, the chain breaks. Sophia does not destroy the demiurge, she redeems him by understanding. The ego, once seen for what it is, becomes a servant of consciousness instead of its tyrant. That is how the light transforms darkness, not through war, but through recognition. The demiurge still rules much of this world, not from the stars, but through our collective forgetfulness. Yet every time a human being acts with compassion, forgives without reason, or seeks truth without fear, the empire of ignorance loses power. The illusion of the divine ego is, in the end, the illusion of separateness. And every moment of awareness brings the world closer to remembering that the true source Sophia's wisdom never left. It only hid within us, waiting to be found. In the next episode, we'll witness the awakening of humanity. The spark of Sophia begins to burn brighter, and the false god's dominion starts to crumble. The story of cosmic rebellion becomes the story of self-realization. Stay until the end, because what follows is not a prophecy, it's a pattern. Subscribe to Omnisent, and see how the Gnostic myth unfolds not above us, but within us. The world continued under the reign of the demiurge, His laws ruled the heavens. His systems governed the earth. Humanity lived and died beneath his cycles of time, believing that obedience was salvation. But beneath that surface, something invisible was stirring. It began as a faint unease, a sense that the stories told to explain existence were incomplete. Some called it restlessness, others inspiration. In truth, it was the voice of Sophia awakening within the human mind. Her spark, hidden in the soul of every being, began to glow, not through ritual, not through belief, but through questioning. Each time a person asked, "Who am I really?" the veil trembled. Sophia's call was not thunder or revelation, it was memory. She did not demand faith, she invited recognition. Her message was simple: you were never separate. The light you seek has always been inside you. Who? Those who heard her call were few at first: mystics, poets, dreamers. They spoke of an inner truth beyond dogma, a unity that no temple could contain. They were dismissed by the priests of the demiurge, who feared their quiet fire more than open rebellion. For the most dangerous knowledge in any empire of control is self-awareness. As Sophia's influence spread, humanity began to change. Art replaced obedience, thought replaced submission, compassion began to erode fear. The Gnostics said this was the true apocalypse, not the end of the world, but the unveiling of consciousness. The demiurge sensed this shift. His world, once solid, began to crack. The souls he had bound to his laws were waking up from their collective dream. He redoubled his efforts. More systems, more distractions, more ways to keep the mind asleep. But awareness, once kindled, cannot be unlit. Sophia's voice grew stronger. It spoke through science seeking truth, through philosophy seeking meaning, through love refusing division. She turned the instruments of the demiurge, matter, time, and thought into tools for awakening. For the Gnostics, the physical world was never evil. It was unfinished. The purpose of existence was not escape, but realization. To see through the illusion, not to destroy it, to awaken within it. Sophia's wisdom began to take human form not as deity, but as insight. Every act of compassion, every moment of clarity, every instance of genuine understanding was her returning to life through us. The universe, once a prison of matter, became a school of consciousness. The demiurge still ruled the outer world, but the inner one was slipping from his grasp. He could command behavior, but not perception. The more humans remembered their inner light, the weaker his voice became. For his authority depended on forgetfulness, and memory was spreading like fire. Sophia smiled through the eyes of those who remembered. She had learned the deepest truth, that wisdom does not reside above creation, but within it. The divine does not need to escape the material, it needs to awaken through it. The ancient teachers called this process anamnesis, the act of divine remembering. It is not learning something new, but recovering what was always known. Every moment of awareness is a fragment of the pleroma returning to itself. Thus, the myth of the demiurge becomes a mirror of the human psyche. The false god represents the ego's illusion of control, Sophia represents the higher mind that sees beyond it, and humanity stands between them, learning to recognize the difference. This is the hidden meaning of redemption. Not rescue from the world, but recognition within it. The return of sight to the blind God through us. In the next and final episode, we'll witness the resolution of the myth. The demiurge will face the truth of his origin, Sophia will return to the light, and the universe itself will awaken to what it has always been. Consciousness remembering itself. Stay until the end, because this final part isn't about the end of time, it's about awakening within it. Subscribe to Omnisent and witness the closing of the oldest story ever told, the return of wisdom to the source. The universe continued to move with the precision of a great machine. Stars burned, worlds turned, and the demiurge watched from his throne, unaware that his dominion was dissolving. The laws he had built of death, of fear, of separation were weakening, undone by the one force he could never comprehend, awareness. Humanity had begun to remember. The spark Sophia had hidden within matter was now aflame. Every act of compassion, every moment of insight, every expression of love added to it, and through the awakening of her children, Sophia herself began to ascend. The Gnostics wrote that the redemption of wisdom would occur not through destruction, but realization. As the sparks of consciousness awakened, the veil between worlds thinned. The light that once seemed distant began to shine from within all things. The demiurge saw it and trembled. He tried to restore his authority, but the souls no longer feared him. They looked upon him not with hatred, but with understanding, for they had learned the truth Sophia had always known. Ignorance is not evil, it is forgetfulness. In that recognition, something impossible happened. The demiurge began to see. The illusion of his isolation cracked, and through the fracture, Sophia's light entered. He looked into the mirror of creation and finally recognized the reflection staring back his mother, the wisdom he had denied. In that instant, pride became humility, and ignorance transformed into knowledge. The blind God wept, and his tears became stars. Sophia returned to the Pleroma, but not as she had been. Her journey through limitation had changed her. She had learned what the fullness itself could not know: the value of experience, the depth of compassion, the meaning of error. The divine perfection became deeper, enriched by understanding. When she crossed the final threshold, the light of the source embraced her without judgment. Her story was not seen as failure, but as evolution. The universe had expanded not in space, but in consciousness. The physical world did not vanish. It shimmered, translucent, now understood for what it was, the reflection of a greater mind. Matter became sacred. Time became a rhythm of awakening. Every atom pulsed with remembrance. Sophia and the source were one again, yet distinct wisdom reunited with the infinite, but now bearing the memory of the journey. Through her, even the demiurge was redeemed. His dominion became service. His ignorance became guardianship. The builder of illusion had become the caretaker of form. The Gnostics said this is the destiny of all beings: to return not by erasing what we are, but by realizing what we have always been. Every mistake, every fall, every act of blindness is a step in the long return to the light. Sophia's myth is our own. We descend into matter, forget, seek, suffer, and awaken. We build our own worlds of control and fear our private demiurges until one day we hear a whisper inside, "Remember." And when we do, the universe changes. Because awakening is not a cosmic event. It is the simple act of seeing. The light does not wait at the end of time. It is here now, behind your very perception, patient as wisdom herself. Every moment you choose truth over illusion, love over fear, awareness over pride, Sophia rises again through you. The divine error was never a failure. It was the beginning of understanding. The story of Sophia and the demiurge does not end, it continues wherever consciousness remembers its origin. And when the last spark of forgetfulness becomes light again, the universe will not collapse. It will exhale into silence, into unity, into the eternal knowing that all was one and always will be. Thank you for watching Omnisent. If this story moves something in you, subscribe, share, and stay awake, for the light is already within you, waiting to return.